Ambassador, you're a diplomat, and I was not. I was an intelligence officer, although in the end I ended up being an intelligence bureaucrat. And watching Putin in relation to Trump, I recognize some of the characteristics of what I would call an intelligence officer at work. Very few of the characteristics of someone who is playing the diplomatic game. I think that Putin perhaps is over-invested in the belief that he can manipulate Trump. Okay, there is some evidence that he's had a degree of success, but we haven't really yet reached a conclusion. What are your reflections?
I agree with you. In my world, I work with a lot of people from think tanks and former officials as part of a network, because that's the way to be more effective. And most of my colleagues think that Putin is doing a magnificent job of manipulating Trump, and that's in part perhaps because Trump has no real interest in his stated goal of achieving a durable peace that leaves Ukraine independent, sovereign, secure, and economically viable. I think that actually Trump does want that. I think that Trump recognizes he's vulnerable to being seen as a patsy if he were to allow Putin to have his way. And that ultimately these factors will push Trump to make the right decision and bring a hammer down on Putin, which, if that happens, would create enormous problems for the Kremlin dictator.
But it is, I think you'll agree, very painful to watch us going through this extended process. I mean, I've described Trump as doing diplomacy back to front. What I mean by that is doing the optics first and none of the preparation. I think you and I know that these complex international agreements would normally require months of what we call Sherpas negotiating the detail before the principals got anywhere near sitting down together. So, I mean, I think we're in a really confused position because having done the optics, it now is quite clear from what's happened in the White House that we're back into the process and the detail, which is looking very complex and very opaque.
Yes, reaching a peace agreement for a war that's been going on not for just 3.5 years, but 11.5 years, usually takes a great deal of work by people who really understand the issues at stake. Having said that, we really haven't even begun serious preliminaries, because preliminary number one, absolutely essential first step to unlock the process which should lead to peace, is to persuade Putin that he wants to negotiate a peace deal. Because he has no intention of negotiating anything other than a diktat, which of course Ukraine will refuse. Because as one Ukrainian official told to me, the only thing worse than living under Russian bombardment is living under Russian occupation.